okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the mood between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
We welcome you to hour number 2 live right here on this Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. Following National Championship Monday, it is our second hour. We are live in studio. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. 2 more hours to go up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time. College hoops in the rear view, the NBA regular season. That is our focus right now. With just 5 more days remaining, Sunday, the regular season finale day for all 30 NBA clubs. All 30 teams will have played their 82nd game by the close of Sunday, which means the postseason on the horizon. A play-in tournament around this time next week. I think it starts on Wednesday, then the true playoffs after that in the NBA. We will do a lot of postseason looks in this second hour to begin. In DRS, just over 2 weeks away from one of your favorite events in Green Bay, Wisconsin, the 2025 NFL Draft, in some shifting and moving markets in the last 48 hours at the top of the NFL Draft to break down.
Do we have a snow date as well, just in case maybe it snows too much in Green Bay at this time of the season?
Though, don't you think?
Move it back, move it indoors. Do you remember, by the way, and again, it's not too long ago, the COVID draft where Roger Goodell was in his basement? Yeah. I mean, we've come a long way.
I think they did a really good job with that. I'll remember that moment for a long time. Bill Belichick's dog drafting for the New England Patriots.
What a time.
Like, it's kind of crazy the NFL throughout all of COVID and that 2020 campaign and with everything, even in the offseason calendar, like, they didn't miss a beat.
No, they didn't. And I remember, like, growing up, like, it was always in, like, New York City, Radio City, Music Hall. And it's like, you know what? It's the bigness of the event. And the NFL was like, you know what? We're going to take this worldwide and just go city to city and have millions of people show up and enjoy themselves. Yeah. Even in, like, cities like Detroit where they even have 1 million people there. It was packed.
Or it's on a comeback. You watch your mouth.
I don't know.
I will say, though, it is crazy because we talk college basketball, right? And we always say, well, there wasn't a 2020 NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
We talk about the 2020 campaigns, the NBA in the bubble, the MLB, the shortened sprint that was 60 games. You don't need any asterisks for what happened in 2020 in the National Football League. They remain king. Let's look at the championship odds for this year around the association. We reset the title odds and where things stand with fewer than a week remaining in this regular season. The Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the best record at this moment, have already clinched the #1 seed in the Western Conference, are the title favorites at plus 170. 15 cents in front of the reigning NBA champs in the Boston Celtics at plus 185. Donnie, this has been the NBA Finals that we have expected, and this is what the odds makers are still expecting that we see. Just a 15-cent gap between the Celtics and the Thunder on the FanDuel.
And I don't think it's going to change all that much. Like, you're already taking a look at games like, oh, okay, so you got blown out by the Lakers, which we'll review a game tonight where it's going to be maybe payback on deck for them. But you see the plus 170, the plus 185, then the Cleveland Cavaliers pulling up the rear there, so to speak, there for only 3 teams at a 5-1 price. Regardless, it looks like the Cavaliers, obviously the number 1 overall seed in the East. You're going to have, obviously, also the Oklahoma City Thunder, number 1. And the Boston Celtics, we know the tried and true tradition. Last year, world champions, coming into the playoffs somewhat healthy at this point. They'll be okay as well. So if you're saying, is there value right now towards the end of the regular season? There really isn't, because we understand where these teams are going to fall, and they're just jockeying right now, not for position, but just to get their rotations correct and also be healthy once the playoffs start.
Donnie, something we have harped on the entirety of this NBA regular season with how prolific and historic the Cleveland Cavaliers have been in their wins this season at 62 and 16. They've cooled off a little bit in the last 2 weeks. They haven't officially clinched the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference just yet, but with a 4-game lead with only 4 games remaining and as a 12-point home favorite tonight in the land against the Chicago Bulls, the Cavaliers' magic number to be that 1 seed is 1. That would be 1 victory tonight against the Bulls. And that's something we have discussed. I would still say, if you are looking for a spot that maybe you can find some value, you give the pedigree and, of course, all of the championship experience to the Boston Celtics at a plus 185 price to win the NBA title out of the Eastern Conference. But the Celtics are not going to have home floor advantage. They've actually been much better on the road this year than inside TD Garden. The Cavaliers will be the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. And if Oklahoma City gets to that NBA championship set against anybody, including the Cavaliers, OKC will have that home floor advantage.
Exactly, and that's the key here. You want Game 7 in your building, which theoretically you can say, like, just put it in the back of your head. Okay, we can lose every single road game as long as we win our home games, and nobody can do anything about it. We'll be world champions at this point. That is a great thing to have. Now, we understand how good the Boston Celtics are as a team and are on the road. We'll see if the Cleveland Cavaliers, are they just regular season tough? Can they enter into the playoffs and knock down some competitive teams? We talked about, like, the New York Knicks finally getting healthy at the right time of the season. By the way, big game tonight in the Garden as well against the Boston Celtics. We'll hit a little bit later in the show. The Los Angeles Lakers, and all of a sudden the Warriors started to make a comeback here in the top 5 now at an 18-1 price to win it. But, of course, the focus is going to be, and the questions will always come up, we know Boston's built for this. They won it last year. The Cleveland Cavaliers, are they the paper tiger of the regular season? I don't think so. I think there's a legitimate chance they can wind up in the NBA Finals. But the question marks always will be for OKC. Expectations were to have a good basketball team. I don't know if expectations were as high as we're going to be the best record in the NBA as we start to make our move toward a championship. That'll be a fun one to play out, but those questions will be there right up to the day where they possibly win it.
There's no doubt about it, right? It's a new guard. It's a new era atop the Western Conference where Oklahoma City reigns supreme at this moment. They're a minus money favorite, near $1.50 price to win that Western Conference crown. But last year, OKC in a 6-game series against the Dallas Mavericks lost in the second round. And so can the Thunder now learn from that postseason lapse and take their lumps and move it forward this season? That is what we will guess. DRS, I think if we looked at value outside of those top 3 teams, OKC, Boston, and then Cleveland, because you have to triple the price of the Cavaliers, then add on a few dollars of change to even get to the Lakers or the Warriors. Is there any team outside of the top 3 that would be worth a sprinkle as we enter this final week of the regular season?
Yeah, look at the Rockets. 90-1 on the Rockets. They're the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, and they're 90-1 to win an NBA championship. Are we just saying they are the ultimate paper champion of the regular season? Like, every one of their wins doesn't count, and no way they can compete in the playoffs because, what, a team like the Denver Nuggets, who's skidding down the stretch, should be able to easily dispatch them. The Los Angeles Lakers that show points of, hey, we're really good, and then step back and say, ooh, I can't believe that the Lakers lost that game. So for me, outside of the Clippers, which you know I like at 43-1 as it sits right now at the FanDuel Sportsbook, 90-1 is insane. Like, what other sport can you put the number 2 seed in any conference and say it's almost 100-1 to win a championship? I don't get it.
I bet the Houston Rockets before the All-Star break at a 17-1 price to win the West, because at that point, They were the 2 seed. I was just hoping they would host an opening round playoff series so I could cash out maybe with a couple of dollars of profit. The price has gotten longer by $11, and they have clinched the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. Are we really? I mean, I guess it's the idea that the 7 seed is probably going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
The Rockets are going to be a hefty opening round underdog with home floor advantage against any of the teams that could emerge from the play-in tourney. A lot to figure out, though, around the Western Conference. The Lakers have a 1.5 lead over the Nuggets for that 3-4 split. The Clippers only a half game back of the Nugs as well. And, Donnie, when you look right now at 5 through 8, 46-32 the Clippers, 46-32 Golden State, 46-32 Timberwolves, 46-32 Memphis. All 4 of those teams, 5 through 8 right now, tied with the exact same record.
Yeah, it's incredible. And again, you're jockeying for major positions. Like, okay, we'll set up and lose 1 seed line. You're either in the playoffs officially in the top 6, or you're playing a play-in game. You don't want to have the play-in game. You want to be in that top 6. So for a couple games left, those would be the teams to watch down the stretch and must-need situation with wins.
We'll look at the Western Conference playoff picture up next, live right here on TEL.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Live right here on this Tuesday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Just 5 days remaining in the NBA's regular season. So we go conference by conference to look at where the playoff picture stands right now and what is still at stake over this final week of the NBA regular season. Of course, in the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder about 2.5 weeks ago already clinched that number 1 overall seed. They have a 12.5 game lead in front of the Houston Rockets. I said the Rockets had already clinched the number 2 seed. Technically a little bit still more at stake. The Rockets a 3.5 game lead with only 3 games remaining. If they were to lose their final 3 and the Lakers were to win their final 4 in a row, it would come down to some tiebreakers. We don't expect that to be the case. Houston should be the 2 seed. We'll talk about their odds to win the conference crown in just a moment because they keep getting worse seemingly week over week, which is crazy. The Lakers, led by LeBron and Luka, a 1.5 game advantage over the Denver Nuggets for the 3 seed. Denver in a tailspin the last week. They have dropped 4 straight games, DRS, where in 2 of them, Nikola Jokic has recorded the first ever 60-point triple-double in NBA history, and most recently, a 41-point triple-double in the Nuggets' recent loss on Sunday against the Indiana Pacers. And then the story that you see there, 5 through 8, the Clippers, Warriors, T-Wolves, Grizzlies, all with the same exact record with just 4 games left. 46-32.
Yeah, you got to perform at this point in the year. And also, the troubling point about the Nuggets is I don't think people are worried about once they get to the playoffs. Like, they have a championship. Like, and Nikola Jokic is playing great basketball. But that's the issue. You can't have a 60-point triple-double and 40-point triple-doubles and losing those basketball games. It's one thing to say that they're on a slide because they're trying to manage an elbow injury, let's just say, for Nikola Jokic. Or, hey, he's just not right now. His cardio's a little bit off. His triple-doubles are 15, 12, and 10. Like, epic performances like that. Somebody else needs to step up for that basketball team, and they have the players to do it, but they're just not performing. And also, the alarming rate of, let's just say they don't play great basketball, and they go from the 4th seed to the 8th seed at that point or something like that, which is crazy. It sounds crazy, but 1 or 2 losses where you might finish 500 the rest of the way, and the other 2 teams are going 3-1 or 4-1 or 5-1 down the stretch, however many games they got back. No choice but you're out of it here. So playing not your best basketball at the end of the season when you desperately need to be in tune with the playoffs to make a championship run, and if your seeding drops, that hurts you, that's a tough scene there.
DRS, the Denver Nuggets at the All-Star break were 36-19, riding a very lengthy win streak. They won their first game out of the break, 37-19. From that moment, they are 10-13. It's not atrocious, but it's not the basketball you want to be playing, of course, rounding into your best form entering the postseason, including this 4-game slide. And maybe more concerning than 10-13, they've covered 5 times since the All-Star break in 24 total games. Again, not where Denver wants to be. The championship pedigree is there. But to Donnie's point, they only have a half-game lead over those cluster of 4 teams, all with the same record at 46-32. The Clippers and the Warriors right now, based on tiebreakers, the advantages. They would be out of a play-in tournament. The 5 seed would be L.A. The 6 seed would be Golden State. And Golden State with Jimmy Butler, since he played in his first game, DRS, in a Dubs uniform, is now 21-6. Golden State playing really good basketball, but still in danger of having to be in the play-in tourney in the Western.
And also, like, the expectations of the Minnesota Timberwolves coming into the season. You know, you make the change from Karl-Anthony Towns over to Julius Randle from a team that played very well last year. Still playing good basketball at 46-32, but if the season ended today, they're in the play-in round. So it's not as if, like, you look at the East, it's like, look at these teams in the playing round. Like, eventually they're going to get washed out, but they're just happy to be there. Yeah. You're taking a look at championship pedigree teams fighting for their playoff lives right now from a 1-game playoff that they might run themselves into. And it's a shame that the Dallas Mavericks, with Anthony Davis back into it, still hovering around that 10 spot, and what you're getting out of the Phoenix Suns, who lost 6 games in a row without Kevin Durant's services here, they're completely bottoming out because you would have Kyrie Irving and then also layered up ability where they probably wouldn't be sitting at 38-41. So the Western Conference, it seems, on a year-to-year basis, top to bottom is always better than the Eastern Conference, but the heavyweights in the Eastern Conference certainly going to weigh into it. But watching down the stretch where an NBA season that doesn't give us a lot to cheer for, the Western Conference finish is going to be interesting outside of those top couple seeds.
DRS, exactly 1 week from today, the NBA's play-in tournament begins with the 7-8 matchups in both conferences. So that means out west, as of this moment, it would be in the Twin Cities between the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies. Memphis on a slide as well. A very tumultuous second half of this season. The dismissal of their head coach, Taylor Jenkins, just a few days ago. Memphis has won 2 straight, though, after a 5-game slide to be at that 46-32 number. I still need one more win for the Grizz in their Final 4 to go over their preseason win total bet of 46.5. Memphis will play Minnesota down the home stretch of this regular season as well in their final 4 games. Let's talk about those Western Conference odds as it does correlate, DRS, to what we are seeing here in those postseason positions. Again, Oklahoma City, 12.5 game lead, better than anybody else in the Western Conference in that number 1 overall spot. They've already clinched. They will have home floor advantage as of this moment the entirety of the postseason, however long they are there, even in to the NBA Finals. That's why they are $1.50 minus money favorite. But when you have a minus 150 favorite for the Thunder before the postseason has even begun, of course, there could be some value. Of those teams not named Oklahoma City, who catches your eye?
Still the Clippers, 14-1, playoff tested. You got experienced Kawhi Leonard healthy at the right time. Hopefully James Harden stays healthy as well, and also our guy Norm Powell. But the Denver Nuggets also have a pedigree at a 9-1 price. We're not talking about winning the championship, just making the championship round at getting those price points. And then once again, number 2 in the standings, number 7 in the odds market is the Houston Rockets, 28-1. I'm not advocating saying that the Rockets are going to run to the championship and knock off the Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers, but just the disrespect of that number where it's like, hey, you guys had a good season, and yeah, you're the 2 seed, but you're the 7th overall number on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I can't buy into that at that point here. So from a playoff perspective for me, Clippers 14-1, Rockets 28-1.
The Rockets are a young team, but they do have Ime Udoka in his second year, of course, an experienced head coach. With home floor advantage and where the odds look right now, they would be an underdog against teams that have to get out of the play-in tournament. Does strike me strange. Again, I have a 17-1 number on the Rockets that I hope gets a little bit better by the time we start the playoffs, and I hope at least I can find some cash out value or some hedging opportunities throughout the postseason. By the way, the Clippers have won 4 straight and 14 of their last 7. Eastern Conference, we go next.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
A look at the Eastern Conference playoff standings with only 5 days remaining in the NBA regular season. DRS, unlike the Western Conference, where basically everything is still up for grabs outside of the number 1 overall seed, not much in reality that is still outstanding in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Cavaliers have not officially clinched the top spot in the Eastern Conference, but with a 4-game advantage over the reigning champs in the Celtics, with just 4 games remaining. And tonight at home as a 12-point favorite against the Chicago Bulls. The magic number to be 1 is 1 for Cleveland. And then again, we'll make official the conversation we have been having for the large part of the last 2.5 months. Boston has the championship pedigree. The Celtics are a minus 150 favorite to win the Eastern Conference crown. And yet they will not have home floor advantage. It's going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers.
It is going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers, and all season, like, they're 62-16. And again, we're still doubting them only because it's the Boston Celtics and the championship pedigree and how strong that lineup looks when it's fully healthy and intact. We'll see if that lineup, by the way, is fully healthy and intact tonight here going up against the New York Knicks. But in the playoffs, I don't want to doubt the Cavaliers. And I don't want anything to say, like, because their season start was so phenomenal. And I just said they're 62-16, which is crazy. But I think people are looking like, oh, only 6-4 in their last 10, lost their last game. They're rounding in the form for the playoffs. I don't put a lot of stock in unless those seeding purposes games, particularly out in the Western Conference, are going to, like, angle up.
Right.
The Cavaliers don't worry about winning games. They're going to be the number 1 seed. They're not going to lose 4 games out. They'll have number 1 overall. And the most important thing is don't get there with a Donovan Mitchell sprained ankle, quad injury, or a groin injury at that point. That's all I'm looking forward to. But I got to tell you, like, yes, everybody should be worried about the Celtics. Celtics are 58-20, though. They're not like the Dodgers where you expect them to go 162-0. They lose 2 games. Like, oh, my goodness, what's wrong with them? I actually believe, like, the Cavaliers, 33-6 at home and also 29-10 on the road. They should beat the Boston Celtics. But until we see it, people are going to doubt it. It's the way it is.
They are not going to be favored to do that if that is the projected Eastern Conference Finals matchup. We keep hammering the point, but Boston won't be inside TD Garden like they were last year on their way to winning championship banner number 18. Maybe it doesn't matter for this year's Celtics team. They're 32-7 on the road. It is the best away from home record around the entirety of the association. 4 games, though, between Cleveland and Boston this year, split 2 apiece and split in the home and home. Both teams lost once at home, and both teams, of course, then won once on the road against that opponent. And Boston is going to be the 2 seed. They've got an 8-game advantage over the New York Knicks. The Knicks at home tonight against the Celtics. Not only a big game, DRS, to try to wrap up the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, but really a prove-it spot for New York, who will play both the C's and the Cavs down the home stretch in the final week of this NBA regular season. As it has been well reported, New York is 0-6, both straight up and against the number, against both Boston and Cleveland this year. It is why there is such a large distinction among those top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, both standings and odds board.
No, and again, proof is in the pudding, as we like to say. Like, you can beat every one of those, smaller teams across the league yourself and say, yeah, we're going to beat those up. But when you start to play the upper echelon teams, we are going to look at that record. Because even if you struggle, let's just say, with the bottom 6 teams in the NBA, hey, only 3-3 against those teams, but you do have wins against the Boston Celtics and the OKC Thunder, you can sort of level that advantage. That's a big game tonight in the Garden. Not because it changes seeding purposes or if the Celtics says, oh, no, are they not right for the playoffs? It's just that one of those, file it away.
Yeah.
We beat the Celtics down the stretch. Our guy is back in the lineup in Jalen Brunson. Now we're ready for the playoffs. It'll be a bad look. Brunson comes back. Nothing changes. 10-point loss at home to the Celtics. Bad look that would be.
Inside MSG tonight, the Knicks are an ever-so-slight favorite.
Yep.
A point in minus 112 on the money line. They have been the underdog in 5 of the first 6 matchups against both Cleveland and Boston this year. Elsewhere, DRS, around the Eastern Conference standings, really not much to report. The Knicks have a 3-game lead over the Pacers for the 3-4 split. Indiana 3 games in front of Milwaukee. The Bucks without Damian Lillard, but some really strong play from Giannis down the stretch. A 1.5 advantage over the Pistons. And all 4 play-in tourney teams in the Eastern Conference firmly locked into those spots. We could see a change from Chicago and Miami for who hosts the 9-10 matchup, but not much there. Again, when you go back to the odds board, that is why you see such large gaps in the prices. Minus 150 for Boston, plus 185 for Cleveland, 13-1 on New York. Donnie, do you think anybody else will be in the Eastern Conference Finals except those top 2 teams?
No, I don't. And again, maybe the Knicks can catch some fire because the overall talent for the Knicks, and they do have a playoff pedigree last year, getting so injured and so banged up and still winning a few playoff series, maybe they can do it. But I'll tell you one thing. Like, the NBA can't be happy with the Magic, Hawks, Bulls, and Heat in the play-in rounds. Who is watching that?
I think that's been the play-in tournament for the last 3 years. All 4 of those teams. I know Orlando was not a season ago, but it's basically rinse and repeat. 2025 NFL Draft Outlook next.
okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the mood between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
Just over 2 weeks away from the 2025 NFL Draft. The opening night, the first round, on Thursday, April 24th, live from Titletown. That is Green Bay, Wisconsin. And DRS, in this time of speculation and smoke screens, we are starting to see some shifting markets around the 2025 NFL Draft odds board. Not necessarily for number one overall, more so a solidification of who is going first. That would be Miami's quarterback in Cam Ward at a minus 20,000 number. On the week of the NFL Scouting Combine in late February, just over a month ago in Indianapolis, that was about a minus 120, minus 135, minus 150 price on Cam Ward. It is now minus 20,000. It is basically not confirmed necessarily, but we await for it to be official for Cam Ward to be that first overall selection made by the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, we all along, all systems ago, like coming from the regular season, Shedeur Sanders is a very good quarterback. He'll be a fine quarterback in the NFL and drafted in round number 1. But it was apparent to me early on in the season that Cam Ward really has the goods. You talk about maturity from the pocket, delivering from the pocket, making plays outside the pocket, athletic ability, and arm strength, and also the willingness to throw into tight coverage. He did it all season long with the Miami Hurricanes. I look forward to him. Like, if you are a team in need of a quarterback, and the Tennessee Titans sort of fell into that number 1 seed due to some unforeseen circumstances by other teams that played bad football, wanted to win an extra game down the stretch. Bad move here. Cam Ward's your number 1 overall pick. Tennessee's got a good one here for me.
Tennessee played it pretty fair, I thought, early with a new general manager in Nashville, Mike Borgonzi, saying we're going to listen to calls. We're not necessarily sold. It became pretty apparent early on in the draft process that Cam Ward was their guy. Of course, the Titans in desperate need of a quarterback, despite selecting Will Levis early in the second round just 2 years ago. But that was a different regime, different head coach, different general manager. Now it's Brian Callahan in year number 2. You got to see if you can unlock his offensive scheme led by Cam Ward. I think it is a surefire pick to go number 1 overall. Donnie, I just wish I lived in a state where you could bet the NFL draft at the time, because I felt like Cam Ward was the best quarterback for a team that was drafting first overall that desperately needed a QB. Now minus 20,000 for that to be the case. I will say this, though, Donnie, and something that is really standing out in this draft process is almost how quiet it has been. It's taken a while to get some more draft markets available. We are starting to get that just about 16 days away from that first round on Thursday, April 24th in Green Bay. And on top of that, outside of some market movement we're about to discuss, we haven't seen any movement between NFL clubs. The NFL expanded to 32 NFL organizations with the addition of the Houston Texans back in 2002. The modern draft era became 7 rounds each and every season back in 1994. In either of those spans, Donnie, 20-plus or 30-plus years now, this is the only time in NFL league history that the league year has begun, and then some now into early April, that all NFL clubs still hold on to their original first-round pick. Nobody has traded a pick, either in a previous trade package or in this draft process.
Yeah, we'll see if that comes down the stretch here, too, because there are some tradable spots here within the top 2 and 3, which we probably should be dialed into at that point. But you're right about it. It's good to see everybody participating also. That's why the NFL likes it. All 32 teams hopefully will participate in round number 1, which is now prime time. As you talk about the changes to the NFL draft itself, it was squeezed into a Saturday, a long Saturday, and then a Sunday. Now I love the fact that they do it 3 straight nights here, prime time action, so you can watch it play out and fold in round number 1, which we should have some fireworks. But I don't think we have any more fireworks on Cam Ward. And by the way, it wasn't as if like you were tanking for Cam Ward, which so many times you see like whenever Arch Manning comes out, like, hey, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. Like he was plus 100, minus 110, minus 130, minus 300 for a long time before it was apparent that Shedeur Sanders was not going to be the top quarterback selected. Yeah. And when you're drafting number 1, you need a quarterback. The number 1 overall quarterback, Cam Ward. That's why you put the pieces to the puzzle together.
We've seen odds like this in various drafts, whether in the National Football League or otherwise in the last few years. Caleb Williams last year closed as a minus 100,000 favorite to go first overall to Chicago. Victor Wembanyama was minus 100,000 to go first overall to San Antonio. Connor Bedard, same story for the Chicago Blackhawks a few years ago. But all those guys we knew about years in advance. True. To your point, DRS, not the same for Cam Ward that has now been solidified. Here's where things get very interesting. Because all 32 NFL franchises still hold on to their originally slated first-round pick, you would think the teams that draft 2nd and 3rd overall still need a face of the franchise for the future, and yet it does not seem they are going to go the quarterback route. Cleveland has the number 2 overall pick. The Giants have the number 3 overall pick. And Donnie, it doesn't appear that either team is going to go quarterback. That's interesting to note in one, because maybe there is a team that is in desperate need of a QB that could trade their way up the draft board. We haven't seen it yet. Maybe the next 2+ weeks we will. But also the change in who is the favorite to go 2nd overall and 3rd overall since late last week. Late last week, it was the edge rusher out of Penn State, the game wrecker in Abdul Carter. That was a minus 270 favorite to be that 2nd overall selection. He is now no longer the favorite. It's Travis Hunter at a minus 250 price. Hunter was minus 185 to go 3rd overall. That's now Abdul Carter in the reverse at minus 170. And there have been some reports in the last 24 to 36 hours that Abdul Carter had dinner in State College with the New York Giants brass earlier over the weekend, that the Cleveland Browns have started to become infatuated with the reigning Heisman winner in Travis Hunter.
These are all good football players, but understand this. The best overall football player, and I don't think it's close, is Abdul Carter. From what you talk about, like a Micah Parsons type game-changing speed rusher on the edge, is unbelievable that he might be there too. And then we find this week at the FanDuel Sportsbook, Ben, that Travis Hunter's minus 250. There's no knock on Travis Hunter. Legitimate, unbelievable defensive back, great wide receiver. He'll be a fantastic draft pick. But as I was starting to line this draft up, and I said to myself yesterday, boy, this might be looking bad on the New York Giants. You know, I've been knocking all offseason with what they've been doing. But I actually saw a game plan. I was like, okay, if we're going to pass on quarterback this year, number 3 is going to be Travis Hunter. We can plug him in at defense. We can try him on offense. Swiss Army knife. We can't lose with this player. Now you're saying that player might go number 2 overall, and let's just say Cleveland doesn't trade out, which then leaves Abdul Carter at 3. So I go, well, the Giants would take Abdul Carter, who's unbelievable, but you signed Brian Burns to a massive contract and traded a lot of draft capital for, and just a year previous or 2 years previous, Kayvon Thibodeau in the first round as a defensive end. So where does he fit in? But now I start to see, like, if you're the Giants, there might be that silver lining out here at this point, because if I'm saying to the Giants, we sit at 3 with Abdul Carter, our phones are going to explode from other teams out there. It's like, we want this guy, can't believe he's at 3, and you go, well, we might be looking for a quarterback. How about we trade the number 3 overall, pick up an extra first rounder, dip down later in the first round, and then if we have to use maybe a 3rd rounder to trade up to get Shedeur Sanders, it could all work out for the Giants at this point. There's so many intricate moves that could happen, but to start with your initial premise here, I'm shocked that Abdul Carter would be available at number 3.
I completely agree, DRS. Maybe the most important position in football, not named a quarterback, is a game-wrecking defensive lineman, certainly an edge rusher. Frankly, based on roster, neither Cleveland or New York desperately need one. Of course, Myles Garrett locked up this offseason to the tune of $40 million per year. Cleveland still desperately needs a quarterback. Right now, the injured Deshaun Watson, who is probably not going to play another game for the Browns in the National Football League, and Kenny Pickett are the guys on the roster, at least for the Giants, who still probably need that future quarterback for 2026 and beyond. They have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as placeholders, seemingly because of those offseason acquisitions, not going to go after a QB with the 3rd overall selection. But because Abdul Carter could be available, DRS, at number 3 overall, they could get a lot of calls for a guy that could instantly change your franchise on the defensive side of the ball. We hosted Final Four Saturday together here on Bracket Central. I got to New Jersey. I wanted to bet a few things in the 2025 NFL Draft that we'll discuss on the other side of the break. One of them, if the market was available, was the exact order of the top 3, because if you asked me 48 hours ago, would have been Cam Ward 1, Abdul Carter 2, Travis Hunter 3.
Yeah, and it still could be that, because we don't know if Cleveland's going to hold that pick and or the New York Giants. So we do think there's not much argument. Ward's going to go number 1 because he's a quarterback. That's what happens in the NFL draft. And I do think Travis Hunter and or Abdul Carter would be very good picks there to have, but it's going to be fun to watch it play out.
So if not in the top 3, where does Shedeur Sanders go next?
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and you know, launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the move between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
Just over 2 weeks away from the 2025 NFL Draft, and although we haven't seen any trades or movement between NFL clubs, we have seen those shifting odds. Again, just late last week, Abdul Carter, the edge rusher out of Penn State, was the hefty odds-on favorite, around a minus 270 number, to go second overall. He is now no longer the favorite for that second overall pick. It is the Heisman winner in Travis Hunter at minus 250, Abdul Carter minus 170 to be that odds-on favorite to go third overall. Donnie said something before the break that I do just want to highlight if you are betting these NFL draft markets. If Travis Hunter goes second overall, but it's not the Cleveland Browns making the pick, you still win that bet.
True.
So it just needs to be made that distinction. It's not Travis Hunter second overall to the Browns. It's just Travis Hunter hearing his name called before anybody else in Green Bay over 2 weeks from now outside of Cam Ward.
Exactly, and that's one of the premises because you're trying to figure out like who's the best player in this draft. It doesn't matter. It's what team actually decides that's the player that we want and we'll trade up for because you are looking at two teams right now. Most teams want quarterbacks. That's why you're bad. Top three of the draft, and quite frankly, all three teams are bad. New York Giants seemingly have a veteran quarterback. Kenny Pickett, as you talked about there for the Browns, that's not your future quarterback, and Cam Ward's probably going to do that. So if you're the Cleveland Browns at number 2 spot, and you say to yourself, like, okay, we're not going to draft quarterback at this point or reach for a quarterback, but we still like Shedeur Sanders, that's what I talked about with the Giants. The opportunity for a team to come up and say, we'll give you 2 ones for that spot to get Travis Hunter, and then you trade us, flip-flop those first-round picks. We'll move back here, and if Shedeur Sanders is around, hey, we get an extra one for next year, and we got a quarterback at the same time. They would love that equation. So it is interesting to point that out where nobody settled, and the smokescreen season, it's already underway, and it's now Abdul Carter. We don't know about his foot at this point, and maybe it's Travis Hunter. So teams will be posturing all the way through, which includes the Browns in that number 2 spot.
Again, I'm not entirely sure what the Browns' offseason plan has been. I don't think you nor I have agreed with any move that Andrew Berry or Jimmy Haslam, front office or ownership, has made for Cleveland this offseason. I'm not entirely sure why the Browns would have selected Abdul Carter as an edge rusher to pair alongside Myles Garrett because they don't really have much offensively. But I would have thought at this stage we would be talking 2 quarterbacks pretty solidified going 1 and 2. It is not an overly deep quarterback class, but at the end of both the college football and NFL season, if you would have asked me, I would have said, yeah, it's going to be Cam Ward, who I like a little bit better than Shedeur Sanders, but not thinking Sanders is a bust. He goes second overall to a Browns team or a Giants team sitting there at 3 that are in desperate need of a face of a franchise future quarterback. Doesn't seem to be the case, DRS, on Shedeur Sanders. So if not in the top 3, where might Shedeur go? The teams that are most likely to pick Shedeur Sanders. The New Orleans Saints now have the shortest price at plus 270. Notice these numbers. None of them are close to a favored number, not even money. The Saints, who currently hold the 9th overall pick at plus 270, do make some sense. The Giants at plus 420 still could elect that quarterback beyond 2026. I'm still not sure they make that selection. And Donnie, the team that I bet, as I mentioned, when I got here on Saturday to the Garden State and could bet these draft odds, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I bet it at a 9-1 number. It opened at a 17-1 price, and quickly, in the span of about 5-6 days, has become 6-1, third best price that Shedeur Sanders could end up in the Steel City.
No, and you're right. You take a look at the top 3 teams, let's just say, on the leaderboard here at FanDuel. The New Orleans Saints, you say, oh, they're a rebuilding team. Makes a lot of sense. That's a new head coach coming in, offensive guy. You saw what he did last year, with the Philadelphia Eagles, and pretty much throughout his career. Dak Prescott, he was very good with talking about Kellen Moore. You got to the West Coast, a little bit of a Charger year where a lot of players were injured, but certainly rehabbed his image as a play caller last year, which got him the job in New Orleans. And also, if you're Shedeur Sanders, if people start to say, well, he doesn't throw the crispest deep ball because of his arm strength here, did you see what Drew Brees did in the Dome there for New Orleans? Absolutely phenomenal. You're not worried about any windy conditions like you would have in the Meadowlands and or in Cleveland. Then you take a look at the New York Giants, who it does make sense. They need a quarterback, but where do they take him at? And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe the most intriguing one where you're sitting back and the arguments that come through is, who wants to be their quarterback? Like they're saying, Aaron, here's a lot of money come for our team. You have nowhere to go. And Aaron Rodgers is like, maybe there's a better spot around the league. Like, no, there's no other spot around the league for you. So if now you're saying Jalen Milroe on the outside, why not Shedeur Sanders? If he's falling down, let's just say to the 5th or the 6th pick, you come up and grab him. Is anybody going to be like, oh, why did the Steelers do that? Be a great pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because then you finally would have that off the treadmill, post-Ben Roethlisberger, here's our guy.
You need a future quarterback. You need somebody, not just these plug-in-place fill-ins that we have seen on a year-to-year basis for the Steelers. Mason Rudolph, the only guy in the quarterback room right now.
Is that even a guy?
For Pittsburgh. I also bet the Steelers to select a quarterback as their first position drafted at plus 340. The lineman at plus 220 has that shortest price. And, Donnie, I think you can use a variety of different categories of draft odds to paint a picture. Again, you would have asked me at the end of the football season, Shedeur Sanders probably going 2nd overall, a minus 500 price to be a top 5 pick at bare minimum. He's plus 175 to be a top 5 selection now. Again, not favored to hear his name called, and here is why. After the top 3 we have highlighted, Titans, Browns, Giants, it's the Patriots at 4. They've got Drake May. It's the Jags at 5. They've got Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, but here's the, and again, you bring up a very good point because we don't know who's going to trade up for what. But when a quarterback is there that you like, and no longer the price point is we have to climb up to number 1, there's going to be a feeding frenzy if Shedeur Sanders gets past 3 or nobody makes any trades and they just stick to the playbook of, okay, Travis Hunter's going 2 or 3, Abdul Carter's going 2 or 3, and of course Cam Ward number 1. You talk about that 5th spot and you said, well, they don't need it. They know exactly well because the Patriots are saying, we are so talent deficient on our football team.
Yeah.
You want to come up and grab a quarterback here? We don't need one. I'm going to take your next first rounder for next year. We'll swap first rounders this year, and I want 2 number 2s on top of it, and they get that. That's a slam dunk home run. So just because Shedeur Sanders with the teams at 4 and 5 don't need a quarterback, that's where you start to say, like, you know what? Yeah. Teams are going to trade up and say, we know you don't need a quarterback. We need one. Let's make this happen.
You trade up for a quarterback, and if Shedeur Sanders starts to see his stock slide, that could be where we get some final movement between these NFL clubs. Sometimes NFL organizations look to the collegiate ranks, but not just in the NFL draft. Yodas, how about this story yesterday? The Carolina Panthers have signed former D1 basketball player Colin Granger as a tight end. 6'9", 225, 5 years at Ohio, Western, and Coastal Carolina.
I love it. Like, you're taking flyers on these guys. Look, the Philadelphia Eagles did it with a rugby player named Jordan Mailata. How did that work out? You're taking a flyer for free. Do it.
Do it in Charlotte. Yeah. Some optimism, perhaps, for Bryce Young entering his 3rd year. We're on SportsGrid next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show.
Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. When I sing that, what does that sound like to you?
Go to sleep. Go to sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A Masters nap.
I might get a nap right now.
It is now Masters Week officially as we turn our attention to Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia. It is the 2025 Masters, the opening major of the year in the world of golf. It starts in just 2 days on a Thursday, a sign of spring. The azaleas in full bloom. Some rain early this week in Augusta,
Ooh, soften
Georgia.
it up.
We hope that it clears by the time we get ready to go. Keith Stewart will be live from Augusta here on the Early Line and across the Sports Grid network all week long, I believe starting tomorrow. Let's take a look at those outright odds. Put on that green jacket come Sunday evening inside Butler Cabin, and DRS should be no surprise. It's Scotty Scheffler at a 4-1 price, has the best odds to win yet another Masters, of course, our reigning champ, entering the 2025 rendition. And can Rory McIlroy finally win another major championship? It has been more than a decade, and this would be the one to hoist and to wear that green jacket. It would round out his Grand Slam of his career. He has won a PGA Championship, an Open Championship, and a United States Open, but has never donned the green jacket at Augusta National.
Some people like myself get invested just in the major tournaments, right? Like the biggest names on the biggest stage and watch it play out, but none bigger than Augusta. Every single year, you know the holes, you know the echoes that come off the trees on the back nine here, amen corner and alike. And if we do get some glorious weather, which in the Northeast we're not getting right now, cold, windy, rainy, dark, dreary skies, it's just nice to see when you go down to the Masters, everything that golf course can be and how well it's played. And you understand where each player has hit each golf shot and where things land, and also knowing the greens. Like I feel like we know them at home, like which angles to break, which side of the green to hit it on, but also understand this. You look at that leaderboard, it is sensational. From Scotty Scheffler at a 4-1 price, all the way down Joaquin Niemann 28-1, Hideki Matsuyama 30-1, Brooks Koepka at 30-1. So many different players can actually win this, but you're right. The question marks sometimes come up on Rory McIlroy, that crowning achievement that you need. It feels like you could be a major champion. That's one thing. Hey, I got my U.S. Open, got my British Open. But it feels like you step into a different path in your career when you win the Masters. And talking about it all week long, I think one of the coolest things possible on this earth is, can you imagine on a Tuesday, any random Tuesday in the year, you know what? It's dinner time at the Masters. Hey, can I get reservations? Where's your green jacket? Don't have one? You're out. I would love to imagine that in that select few players where you are in that Masters dinner or the Champions dinner on a Tuesday night, one of the more spectacular things. I always wish I could be a part of it. Obviously, I'm never going to be a part of that.
Maybe so, though.
You guys get it going?
Way in there. Weren't you scratch at one point in your life?
Scratch in my head, maybe. Yeah, no, that was.
I thought you were pretty good at golf. Yeah,
single-digit handicap.
But then you gave it up.
Gave it up. Cold turkey. Haven't played August 2nd, 2007.
That's
How about that?
Crazy.
Yeah.
I was trying here at Bellworks, where our studio is located.
Yeah.
We've got a golf indoor simulator downstairs.
Don't want nothing to
I was
do
trying
with
to do that yesterday before the National Championship. Had some hours to kill. Completely booked up on a Monday afternoon.
Booked
in Homedale, New Jersey.
I mean, the Lumen Technology guys get after it down there. Here. Yeah.
Very serious things. By the way, as we look at Scotty Scheffler and we look at Rory McIlroy in comparison, DRS, by this time last year, Scotty Scheffler already had 2 victories. At the Arnold Palmer Invitational, of course, one of those elevated events on the PGA Tour, and the unofficial 5th major in the Players' Championship. Who won the Players this year? That would be Rory in a playoff in come-from-behind fashion. It is one of the reasons that you will start to hear that narrative this week. Rory McIlroy playing his best golf in his best form. Also a top 5 last week or 2 weeks ago at the Texas Children's Houston Open. So Rory McIlroy in really good form entering this week at Augusta.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, that's when you want to play in your best golf. Hey, just went through a big swing change over the offseason. Now I'm ready to win a Masters. Not the case here. Just play. Sooner, if you put yourself in position to win these tournaments, sooner or later you're going to take one down. Multiple major champion Rory McIlroy. Maybe this is his season. Do I want to bet on him at that price point? Maybe not, but I'm not going to be surprised if he's really pressing it down. Again, look at that leaderboard there. Like superstars, major champions all over the place. That's what we love about the Masters, which we expect on Sunday afternoon. Usually there's a few surprises, but the old trusty guys are typically there because they know how to navigate this golf course and play under those pressure conditions.
And a couple of names that maybe we haven't seen in any of our PGA Tour breakdowns so far this year. The Live guys return. John Rahm, our 2023 champion 2 years ago, third best number at 14-1. Colin Morikawa is there as well. And, of course, I think there will be a lot of money on Ludwig Oberg. He has been incredible already this season. It is Masters Week at Augusta. It is hour number 3 here on the Early Line. Up next.